Well, hello there and welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are going to have a little meal prep session with a whole chicken. And I probably don't need to tell you that grocery prices are going nuts all over the world, including here in the south part of Australia where I live. So cooking a whole chicken, I wanted to set myself a challenge today and see how many healthy meals I can make for myself and my husband using just the one chicken as my base, as my protein. Now, a lot of you will have mixed feelings about chicken. So if you are a meat eater, and I know some of you viewers are not, some of these recipes you can absolutely make vegetarian and replace the chicken with, but this may not be the video for you. However, if you are a meat eater and you're not that keen on handling a whole chicken, because it can be a little bit intimidating for some people to do so, I really encourage you to have a go, because if you are eating meat, this is the reality of where the meat comes from. So I try to eat free range where I can. This one is actually not free range. I bought this at Aldi the other week. So it's pretty good value, coming in at $6.97 for this whole chicken. So I'm gonna cook this up now. You can follow along with me and we're gonna see just how many meals we can get out of the one chicken. I have 3 recipes that I'm gonna start with. So first of all, we're gonna do a roast chicken with vegetables and a little bit of some kind of gravy. I'm pretty sure I've got a gravy mix in one of my cupboards here behind me. So that's the first thing we're gonna do. The second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make chicken soup, and I'm gonna use the carcass of the chicken to make my own chicken stock to make a soup with some chicken, celery, noodles. I'll probably use just regular old spaghetti to make like a chicken noodle soup. And the final thing that I'm gonna do is a teriyaki chicken, more like a stir-fried chicken. I may get more meals out of this. Let's see where we land. But let's start with roasting our chicken. Now you can do this in a range of ways. I'm going to be using my trusty convection or turbo oven. I bought this for about $20 at a secondhand shop, and it's really easy to use, but you can obviously roast your chicken in the oven. There are many different ways to cook up your chicken depending what you have handy. I could have also done it in my brand new Instapot. I've linked a couple of Instapot meal prep videos for you below and up here somewhere. But today we're going to cook it in my convection oven, so let's get started. So I'm keeping the seasoning really simple on this roast chicken. You can mix up any kind of seasoning you like, but because I'm making a couple of different meals out of this, I wanted to make sure that I had kind of some kick to meat, like a little bit of flavor, but I'm not doing anything too crazy. So I'm just doing kind of garlic, onion, paprika, salt, pepper, and then we are gonna stuff the inside of the chicken. So I normally cut a lemon in half. In this instance, I had 2 very small lemons, which is why I'm using 2. But doing this and cooking your chicken breast down, my friend taught me, thank you Lindsay, makes it a lot more juicy. So that's how I cook my roasts, and they turn out really yummy every time. So a convection oven is very similar to a regular oven, except that the heat obviously comes from above. So you just set your temperature and your timer. Normally takes about an hour and a half or so to cook a medium-sized chicken in my experience. And then we just split up the chicken meat from the chicken bones and carcass. And these roast veggies were so simple. I just used some things from my garden and some potatoes, and I actually didn't do onion for this one. I saved that for some of the other recipes, but this was really filling, and the portion that my husband is kindly dishing up here is for me, but it was quite a large serve, so I actually split this into 2 meals. I had half of my portion for lunch the next day, and we made a little bit of gravy as well. This is such a lovely meal, especially when it's cold outside, which it is here at the moment. And I can highly recommend that you do a roast with whatever you enjoy. Okay, so we're gonna make this chicken stock. So it's the next day, and I've got my chicken scraps in here, along with some of the carrots that I used for yesterday's roast. Here we've got some cut up vegetables. Now remember, these are just going to simmer, and then we're going to strain all of this. So even if it's got some other bits and bobs on it, it's totally fine. I've got a clove of garlic here, and I've got some fresh thyme from my garden. And I've got some peppercorns, some cold water, some salt, and some bay leaves. And that is all we're going to use. You can quite easily do this on the stove in a normal pot, but I'm going to be using my Instapot for today. And there is our chicken stock. In hindsight, I probably could have added a little bit more water when I cooked it up in the Instapot, but that's totally fine. This is gonna form the base of the chicken soup we're gonna be making in a second. And totally not sponsored, but I got these barbecue gloves or hot gloves, whatever, from Bunnings. They are brilliant. You can find them in the barbecue department if you're in Australia. I can highly recommend these. So this is going to be, anyways, the base for our soup for later. Obviously, you can let this cool. You can store it in the fridge for a few days. You can also freeze it in smaller containers, which I have done before. Works really well as well. Okay, so it's time to cook up this chicken noodle soup. I'm going to be using, this is the chicken I've got left after the chicken roast and the chicken sandwiches, so we're going to use about half of this. I'm going to be using about half of this packet of gluten-free spaghetti. Cook this up in my Dutch oven. I've got my homemade chicken broth that we made before, and I may need to use a little bit of this guy. I'm going to garnish at the end with some parsley, but I've got thyme, bay leaves. I've got a little bit of garlic here, but so I might need to top up with a little bit of this guy. I've got a whole onion, and I've got my mostly thawed celery. Celery is fine to freeze if you're using it in soups and things like that, but it is important to note that the texture does change a little bit. So this is all we're gonna need to cook up. Let's see how many meals we get. So there's something so comforting about chicken noodle soup, and it's interesting that I managed to catch a cold literally as I was filming this video, which is why my voice is a little bit croaky right now. So this chicken noodle soup couldn't have come at a better time. It is so comforting. You can obviously serve it with anything that you like on the side. I managed to burn my toast, but I did not mind because this soup was so comforting and so lovely. And it got 5 meals in total, so I had 3 extra serves after the dinner that we had, which was really lovely. And now we're going to whip up the final meal, which made 4 serves. I've got my rice cooking in my Instapot, and I'm just going to use about half of an onion, some frozen stir-fry vegetables, and get that going and cooked through. Adding in my chicken, and then I'm adding in a teriyaki sauce packet. If you follow here on the channel, you know I often like to do my own marinades and stuff, but sometimes, especially when you've been cook, you just need to put dinner on the table super simply. This was done in about 10 minutes. Obviously the rice took a little bit longer to cook, but honestly this was such a lovely meal, and both my husband and I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed following along as well with this little experiment of mine with all these different chicken meals, and let me know if you cook something like this up for you.